When people are occupied? You don't sound convinced. When people are occupied? Damn straight. All right, this is a song that will eventually get me arrested. Yeah. Put it on me. 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 History is my teacher. Victory is my preacher. If you've been on the fence about it, fam, now's the time that you speak up. I said history is my teacher, victory is my preacher. Tearing down all these walls around me like every time that I reach up. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Hold diaper army, don't wet yourself. Go to the education before you test yourself. Just in Habibi, don't stretch yourself. If you don't know shit, then don't say shit. That both side shit, we don't play this. You dirty, you fucking racist. Tell Wonder Woman she a both-faced bitch. Put it on me. Put it on me. If I said them things, then I meant them things. Motherfucker, you can put it on me. Put it on me. Put it on me. All the blah blah, just fucking cap. Rah rah, I'm with the bucking back. I don't fucking lack. Put it on me. Put it on me. Put it on me. Put it on me. If I said them things, then I meant them things. Motherfucker, you can put it on me. Put it on me. Put it on me. Put it on me.
My name is Sam Weinstein. I'm from the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network here in the UK. But we are an international organization, and you're going to hear from the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network in the US as well tonight. And I want to say, we in the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network, we say never again for anyone, and that includes the Palestinians. And we further say, because this is really critical, if you're not anti-racist if you're not anti-Zionist. And we're delighted to have called this meeting. We've been running a picket in Swiss Cottage, and I'll say more about that in a minute. We've been running it for the last 56 weeks to get the Israeli ambassador expelled. We prefer she go to jail, but we'll accept her being expelled. But I want to make special mention of Palestine Action. I don't know if there's anybody from Palestine Action here tonight, but we know, if you are, say something, that's right, if you want to identify yourself. But they have taken on the arms industry and Elbit in this country in a way that nobody else has, and they've driven Elbit out of at least 3 factories. And there are 26 of them in jail now for one reason or another, but there would have been more, except for the fact that a lot of juries in this country have told the judge where to get off. For 56 weeks, we have been in Swiss Cottage. We've taken on the police. We've taken on the Zionists. They've tried to do everything to us, and we're still there. And we're not going anywhere. And it's been a mixed anti-racist picket with people of all races and people of all religions, but led by IJAN, and we have been joined by Jewish Network for Palestine, which brings me to my next speaker, Haim Bresheeth. And let me say, Haim is one of the casualties of the picket, but also one of its pieces of glory. He spoke. The police had the temerity to arrest him for telling the truth. And then you know what? He was speaking to 150, 200 people. But 40 million people saw his arrest and saw his speech when it went on social media, thanks, as Haim said, to the Metropolitan Police.
Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for inviting us in the Jewish Network for Palestine today. And we are partners every day of the year, and we are staying together, the only two anti-Zionist groups in London. And I used to know all the anti-Zionists in London. Do you remember those good old days? Yeah. So I'm very glad that I don't know hardly any of them now, because there's so many. And this is a real change from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And a lot of them are also younger, which is really excellent. So there is a new generation. I want to talk for 10 minutes about something that bothers me, and I'm sure bothers you. And that is Jewish identity after the 7th of October. Because for many decades after 67, you know, the Jewish identity totally changed in Britain. And it became basically Zionism. Everything that our history of 2,000 years have taught us, and it taught us with pain, it taught us with suffering, it taught us with wisdom, everything was forgotten and basically abandoned for the tenets of Zionism. Most of the Jews here in London and the rest of Britain, in France, in the United States, have abandoned Judaism. The deity, the tradition, the basically experiences of Jews for 2,000 years, not just in Europe, but of course in the Arab world, where they didn't suffer and didn't have a Holocaust, and didn't have pogroms. All those lessons of history that we as a people have learned were forgotten in favor of Zionism. And those lessons are very important. For example, the lesson of living together in peace and in equality, like the convivencia in Spain, or the convivencia in North Africa, or the convivencia in the Middle Eastern countries, or around the Mediterranean Sea. Many, many locations, Jews lived with Christians and Muslims in total harmony for many hundreds of years. In Spain for 800 years. In Palestine for 2,000 years. Never forget what happened in Palestine for 2,000 years. Before Zionism is coming to destroy everything, it not only destroys Palestine and the Palestinians, it destroys Judaism and Jewish identity. Now, something very strange is happening since the 7th of October, but I want to say it's not happening since the 7th of October. It's just clearer. It happened since the beginning of Zionism. And that is the fact that Israel and the Zionist camp outside of Israel is understanding Zionism and Israel as two things that cannot live together. They cannot exist in the same body. As the ultimate victor and as the poorest and most miserable ghetto Jew. Imagine that, you know, the Maccabi Tel Aviv hoodlums arrive in Amsterdam. They attack anyone that they want. They attack property, they attack people, they attack the city of Amsterdam for a whole evening. They also manage to shout terrible slogans in the game they came to see. And then, when the people of Amsterdam go out to defend themselves, to defend their homes, to defend their businesses, they shout anti-Semitism, pogrom, Holocaust. This is not funny. It's not funny, not because it's not true, but because, psychologists will tell you, if you are able to hold in your head the idea that you're a total victim and that you are a total untouchable victor, something is very wrong with you. Something is very wrong with Zionism, that they play the victim at the same time that they play genocide. And I'm not even going to go into details because we all have heard and know what has happened, not just on the 7th of October, but afterwards. Just to mention that more than 1,200 people that were killed supposedly by Hamas and Islamic Jihad were actually killed by the IDF. Yeah. And so when they say that there was a pogrom, actually most of the pogrom was by the IDF that killed about 700 people, 680 people, something like that, with helicopter gunship from America. They shot and shot and shot, and they admitted it in the first 2 weeks after the war started. So what is it that the Israelis are? Are they a ghetto Jew who is frightened to go out, like in Amsterdam, because pogroms and anti-Semites are a danger for them? Or are they the strongest army, not just in the Middle East, but anywhere, that cannot be defeated and yet cannot actually defeat people who fight for freedom, like in Hamas, in Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others? What is Israel? Now, they have not decided because it pays them not to decide. They can play the Holocaust card any day they want, and idiots, which are most of the world leaders of the West, are actually buying into that madness and playing to this Holocaust card. And then they tell us that they can defeat anyone. They can kill people with telephones, with all kind of new technology. And yet, here we are, after 14 months, in few days, 14 months, and they have not managed to defeat a non-government, poor, badly provisioned organization like Hamas. Now, I was already arrested for saying this, so this is not news. But what I'm asking you to think about is the fact that in their heads, they can take those two concepts together and they don't see the contradiction. Now that is really a sign, I think, of very substantial dissonance. They have a cognitive dissonance. They are not able to identify themselves. They have not decided if they are just a ghetto Jew who cannot go out, or if nobody in the world can stop them. And they also are very proud that they can get any nation to do its bidding. And they do, yeah? We just heard that Israel is behind promoting Qatar, because they needed to do that in order, not now, but before the 7th of October, for years. They promoted Qatar. Of course, they never admitted it, because it served their politics. If you would like to search for BB Files, the film, the BB Files, you can watch it for free. It's on YouTube. You will hear what they have done with detail, which is quite amazing. So basically, they can actually turn the White House, they can turn Congress, they can turn Parliament in here and in France, they can turn anyone in the West to do their bidding, and the West is doing their bidding. At the same time, they cry wolf and tell us that they are surrounded by enemies. Everyone is a goy trying to kill and to maim and to rape Jews because they are anti-Semitic. Now, these two held together are the sign of the social psychosis of Israel. And I think that is good news in the end, because Zionism is basically a disease. It is a disease for 100 and almost 25 years. And that disease moves people against their beliefs, against their interest, not just in Israel, which of course it does, but in the States, in this country, in Europe, all over the world, in the West, only in the West, of course. So I think we now are very clear in a way that we were not, say, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about people who are not politically active. They were not clear about the level of psychosis that Zionism has developed in Israel. 97% of Israelis support the war in Gaza. 97% of the population support genocide actively. Think about it. They are, of course, against Netanyahu, many of them, but they're not against the war. They are against Palestine in any possible way. Now, any society that votes by that amount, or even less, for genocide is not a normal society. It is not a normal society. It should not be treated as a normal society. It's left humanity. It's left the human race.
In the past 14 months, Israeli forces have engaged in a systematic program of societal-wide destruction in Gaza. Its aims are clear for all of us to see. The conduct of the Israeli military in Gaza has been to systematically deprive the Palestinian people of any opportunity for life. Israeli forces have, for the past 14 months, in both Gaza and in Lebanon, operated with the true face of Zionism projected visible for all of us to see. For the world, this is a new reality. But for us Palestinians, this has been the same reality that we've existed under for 76 years. Indeed, in the South African application with the ICJ against Israel's genocide in Gaza, they found it surprisingly easy to make the case for genocidal intent merely by looking at the public speech of Israeli officials, right? And this evidence continues to mount, right? And we have to kind of ask ourselves, why did this, and to build on what Haim was talking about, why did this actually, like, what are we seeing now? Is it so different? Is it a post-October 7th reality? Or is this kind of embedded within the DNA of Zionism and only revealed to us in this moment, revealed to the world, to us Palestinians, like I said? We've been privy to this for a very long time. So we see basically kind of coming together, not only of leaders, but also of soldiers, also of, leading members of Israeli society, the media class, academics, artists, all cheeringly, joyously engaging in supporting one of the worst atrocities of our time, broadcast for us all to see. So I will not spend much time debating the essence of Zionism. I just want to quickly highlight that the policies being enacted today in Gaza and that will be enacted in the coming months in the West Bank, there is a genocide coming to the West Bank, we all need to be very aware of it, have been inspired by a long history of genocidal articulations made by Zionist leaders going back to the early Zionist congresses. And in 2017, Smotrich, who I'm sure a lot of people are aware of, is self-described fascist Islamophobe, and the current Minister of Finance, sorry, he was self-described fascist homophobe. I mean, Islamophobe just goes with the territory. And he outlined this thing called Israel's New Decisive Plan, in which he particularly outlines that Israel must give the Palestinians three options, okay? One, to live as individuals. He makes this very clear, individuals, right? You could be an individual Arab, you cannot be a collective Arab, or that, whatever that means. Giving up on any collective demands of the nation. And if they refuse, to either leave or face the brutality of the Zionist army. So, an ethnic cleansing plan. And Smotrich is building on a history of Zionist thought, speaking in the language of Jabotinsky's Iron Wall, written in the 1920s. What Jabotinsky foretold is being put into policies today and has been for the entirety of this project. I mean, it goes through periods of fast forward and slowing down, but today we see it kind of they just gave up all It's one thing, as a Palestinian, I've seen and heard Zionist leadership speak in Hebrew and in Arabic to us for a very long time in this very language. Seeing it for many of the world translated, broadcast in the English language must be really shocking, but it's nothing new.
Zionism funded the extreme right in the UK. They went on the rampage this summer. They targeted refugees and asylum seekers, particularly people of color. Absolutely disgraceful and disgusting. But Tommy Robinson, who's the head of that movement, was being funded £10,000 a year by a rich Zionist in the USA. And Low-Key, our fantastic activist, poet, rapper, has done a whole expose of all the money sloshing around that the right wing gets from Zionists. So these people, every crime can almost be traced back to them. I wanted to mention the left. There's a group, some of you will know, Stand Up to Racism, who masquerade as being anti-racist, but in fact, for years have allowed Zionists to join in on their so-called anti-racist marches. And I'm really glad for that response, because we have to make sure everybody in the movement knows who they are. They should not be allowed, and they have to be called out. We have to be much better informed and ready to speak out. Because if Palestinians are speaking out, how can we be afraid to deal with somebody like Stand Up to Racism? Also, women often get left out of the picture, but we know that obviously women are at the forefront of resistance and survival. And the South Africans did a fantastic statement where they described reproductive genocide, whereby children are being targeted for murder, and women are also being targeted, so that the Israelis intend to wipe out the next generation. That's how outrageous and criminal they are.
There has been such a high cost in this period for the self-determination and the steadfastness of the Palestinian struggle. And this moment has made clear that the masses are with Palestine. And it has, as Sara said, given us an opportunity to understand what is at stake and why fighting for Palestine is so central to the survival of humanity and for the very preservation of this planet. And the same way in the United States that the black struggle and the indigenous struggle has been a compass for any attempt to truly transform the roots of that country based on colonialism and racism, the Palestinian movement is really at the heart with the rest of the African continent of the fight for survival of this planet. And so it's with that we build the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. And as Haim was talking about, we stand on the legacy of Jewish participation in struggles against our own persecution, but also for collective liberation. And it is true that within any group of people, there are parts of that history that stand for liberation, that stand, in our case, for collective liberation and our own justice. But there are also parts that align themselves thinking it will save them with the dominant power, the very dominant power that's been used against us for thousands of years. Even though not only will it not save anyone, it takes our history and uses it against the Palestinian people and continues the very histories that created the genocide against Jewish people. And so on that basis, first and foremost for the liberation of Palestine, but also to redirect history back to the roots that we stand on, which is collective liberation. And Zionism can't exist with that, as Haim spoke to. So the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network was established in 2005 after the Oslo process and the Second Intifada, during which basically what Israel tried to do with a lot of support from the United States and its allies is push acceptable discourse back to liberal Zionism, to reactionary Zionism. And Palestinians, who are the basis of the anti-Zionist movement, said no. And in traveling around the world, we talked to Palestinians, we talked to anti-imperialist, queer, women's, climate justice movements, anti-racist movements throughout the region, in Palestine, in Europe, in Canada, in the United States, in Argentina. And what people felt like is, yes, we needed an international anti-Zionist Jewish perspective, point of view, and organization that said it doesn't stop with liberal Zionism. It stops with the full dismantling of Zionism in the state of Israel. And so that's where we began. But when we spoke to Palestinians on the ground and people in the region in Lebanon, what they said to us is, we don't really need your solidarity. What we need is for you, from your own experience, whether that was coexistence in the region or whether that was being internal colonial subjects in Europe, we need you to wage your own fight against Zionism. And as part of the broader left, so that people understand this is not an ethnic conflict, this is not a religious conflict. While those things get mobilized, like Haim said, this is really about the role that Israel plays, like the British Mandate of Palestine, in ensuring the interests, the political, economic interests, military interests of the United States, Europe, and its allies.
I grew up in the United States. My family was almost all from Brooklyn. And I grew up in the Reform tradition of Judaism, but we took it really seriously. I was home Friday nights to celebrate Shabbat. We celebrated holidays. I went to Hebrew school twice a week. I went to Sunday school to learn about our religion. And I did that until I was 17 years old. And the first argument I had with our rabbi then was that I was really struggling with this idea of the chosen people. And even then, even though I didn't grow up in a family that ever talked about Israel, but I knew that there was something wrong with this idea of the chosen people, and that it separated us or exceptionalized us in ways that was a complete contradiction with how I was raised, which is the history of the ways that Jews have been persecuted and targeted should teach us to always stand up for everyone else. If anyone is ever being targeted, I understood that our history mandated that we stand up for them. And my dad talked about that the history of the Holocaust means really you stand up for anyone who's being targeted. And that didn't make sense. Then how can you have that and have this idea of being chosen? And that really stuck with me. And, I started to learn I got involved in the anti-apartheid struggle around South Africa and the fight for ethnic studies. And then my father, who ended up dying of HIV, I got very involved in ACT UP, which was a movement in the United States to really challenge the government who was totally neglecting people with HIV. And I did work around that. And people said to me, particularly after the Second Intifada and the war in Iraq, why don't you do work on Palestine? And I said, it has nothing to do with me. Israel has nothing to do with me. Like, my family's trying to get us back to Brooklyn because we had moved to California. And they said, you can't be an anti-racist and not do something on Palestine. Because if you don't do something, then you're letting Israel and Zionism speak for you. And so I got involved in an organization called Jews for a Free Palestine, and we did really powerful direct action work. We did protests. We held anti-Zionist seders at the Israeli consulate. We took on the Jewish Community Relations Council, who equated being Jewish with Zionism. But it was very local. And so I went with other people in the organization to Palestine, and there I saw the EU funding this settler road, the United States involved in this way, and I really understood that Zionism is an international project that plays a role in the interests of these other governments that it partners with and that arm it and give it aid. And so then we started to talk to people about building this international Jewish anti-Zionist network, which is first and foremost for the liberation of Palestine and to say you can't use our history against another people. But it's also because the things that Zionism are built on, anti-Semitism, colonialism, racism, those are all a continuation. Zionism continues those things, and we want a departure from them. And so we also do it for the future of our own participation in the world and to rejoin with humanity in the ways that Zionism separates us from it.
On behalf of the majority of Jews in the UK today who are anti-Zionist inherently, because that is the foundation of millennia of our religious beliefs, we warmly welcome Corbyn and his supporters to join us in the only just solution for Palestine, which is a secular democratic state, a single secular democratic state. Last time I checked, Jeremy Corbyn himself is still in support of the two-state solution, which is an issue. And we very warmly invite him to come and speak to us about the inherent problematic nature of supporting any continuation of the Zionist state.
This song is called Abolish It All. It's very straightforward. The hook is Abolish It All repeatedly. You can sing along if you would like to. You are not compelled to do so. But you look kind of like an ass if you don't. This is called Abolish It All, and the tragedy, as always, with the Palestinian cause is that this song came out in 2021, and it is more relevant somehow today than it was then. 3 words, abolish it all. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all. Yeah, yeah. He who smelt it, dealt it. He who smelt it, dealt it. They Putin, then moving like Putin. He who smelt it, dealt it. Shut down G4S and L-bit. Shut up with that shit you talking. Mouth be crumping, mad contorted. Facts is facts, and you don't need no racks on that. Nah, you ain't gotta pay for propaganda when they moving propaganda. There ain't no bunda. Them ain't know the jail. Hot chick on TikTok with an M16, call it femme fatale. Blair, if you ain't know, then notice. Them man, there ain't odors. 44% of Gazans is up to 14 years old, and that's who they been smoking. Chalk it up to a threat they posing. For real, if it's soda stream, that's no refill. Know the deal. If you ain't chose a team by now, then go to hell. Neutrality and barbarity, like aw shucks, what a tragedy. I'm out of all fucks, here's half a tweet for both sides. Fuck both sides, both sides is a cosign to apartheid. So, abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all. Yeah. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Yeah, abolish it all. Yeah. You know what's sexy to me? Buying ethically. Ooh, yeah, that gets me hot. Hewlett Packard is the cops. We eatin' just no Sabra, glowed up, hashtag no Ahava. That's how we slay, and AXA won't get my sevens. E-Day playing ball with the fam. Ain't rocking no Puma, that shit banned. Hit the protest, waving that flag. Kafir rap, gang, 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 gang. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Abolish it all. See, a ceasefire ain't peace to me when the occupation don't cease to be, when the Gaza blockade don't cease to be, when they colonizing illegally. Application of principles must be indiscriminate evenly, or they're not principles, they just preferences. Prejudice, let it soak, let it sit. Pick a side, burn that bridge. I'm with justice, who you with? I'm with freedom, who you with? Praying Palestine will be free. Yeah, from the river to the sea. Yeah. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Abolish it all, abolish it all, abolish it all. Make some noise for yourselves.